everybody. Welcome to a Sunday weekend edition of Daily Distinction. I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for joining me, and good to have you here on a Sunday. As you know, on the weekends, we step out of the studio, kind of do an abbreviated version of the program, but just checking in. Want to do that every day since we're all, kind of halfway sheltering in place, and we're getting ready to start with another week. Dwayne, great to see you. Yes, here is to a great week. We are going to be off to a great week. Right? Why? Because we're going to make it so. Hey, as we get started, as I do quite often, please share this. That's the numbers are growing for the show, as maybe you see as you look wherever you're watching. There's different Facebook pages you can be watching, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm not on Instagram as much anymore because it didn't. And I hate that for Instagram. Not that my show would make that much of a difference, but what I hate is that. It's hard to do on Instagram because the format is different. But the main part is, if I had a guest, you had to just listen to them and not see them or the comments that you folks are kind enough to make. You can't see that on Instagram. So that's why we kind of backed off the Instagram. I'll do it occasionally from now on. But hey, Charles is in beautiful and cool San Jose. That's very cool there. Oh, you mean temperature-wise? Okay. That too. What do we got? We got 88 degrees right now in Las Vegas. So warm, but not brutal like it has been. So at any rate, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate that so much. Want to remind you that coming up tonight is the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott, our weekly show. Boy, we had more viewers last week than ever. Talk about another show where the numbers are really, really growing. Tonight, it's going to be the Glenn and Scott Show without a guy named Ken. So Glenn and I are going to be chatting tonight. And Glenn and I were talking on the phone earlier today. Glenn gave me a shout, and I appreciate that so much. And my pal Glenn and I are just going to be talking about what's going on in the world today and listening to what you comment on and focusing on that. So I'm really looking forward to it. The chance just for Glenn and I to talk about what's on our minds and what's on our hearts. That's going to be a special Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott this week. The Glenn and Scott show without a guy named Ken. But that's what we're going to be doing. So I really hope that you're here every week. It just seems like it gets better and better, and I really, really appreciate that. Don't forget as well, Distinction Nation is where you can get all the free resources that we have for you. In terms of audio program you can download. It's a 14-day program that you listen to a segment every day for 14 days. So look forward to you jumping in there. Hey, Brian, it's not a show till you get here. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Curtis, always great to see you. Joe, hey, great to see you. I appreciate you, Joe. Thank you for saying that. And there's Glenn. You betcha. The Scott McKay Show, a guy named Glenn. Hardly, man. Hardly. You always get top billing, Glenn. I'm telling you, you get the top billing in this partnership. So I appreciate that so much. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of topics tonight. I've just got one I want to chat with you about today, and it is on the topic of negotiation. A lot of times you're like, oh gosh, I hate negotiating, and I'm kind of that way in a way too. I mean, I hate if you're buying a car and you're talking about price and they go back behind the curtain to talk to their manager and do that stuff. And on so many levels, negotiation, we tend to associate negotiating with things that are really challenging, with something that we don't want to do. Yet I'm going to suggest to you, it's really, really important. And negotiation is not a dirty word, because you negotiate with your kids about how late they're going to stay out, or whether or not you're going to buy something, or perhaps what their allowance might be. You negotiate with your spouse. Okay, if you'll do this, then I'll fix this, or whatever. Or how about date night on Friday night, and we'll get somebody. We communicate and we negotiate everything. And so negotiation is not a dirty word, because so much in life is negotiable. There are very few things in life that are just hard and fast rules. Therefore, since much of what we do is negotiation, it makes a little bit of sense that we ought to spend a little bit of time thinking and talking about it. Now, please don't get me wrong. I am not setting myself up as a negotiation expert. I want to invite you to join me as I continue to learn more about it. And I got to tell you what spurred this. One of the great pleasures I have every week is I get the New York Times delivered here at the house in Las Vegas every Sunday. And just to get that New York Times and to sit out here on a beautiful day and to go through the New York Times and just leisurely read the Sunday paper. Now, you may or may not like the New York Times, but it is a great little Sunday ritual to go through. And there was a fascinating article in there today that's talking about an upcoming book on the First Lady, Melania Trump. And if you remember when Donald Trump was first inaugurated as president, there was a period of time early in his administration. By the way, this is not a political discussion, so please don't think that's where this is headed. This is not a political discussion. But interestingly enough, when he first got elected, if you remember, there was a period of time that she didn't make many appearances together. Typically, the president and the first lady are both out front, and they're trying to establish for the nation we're the new, administration, we're the new first couple, and she wasn't around, if you remember. Well, what this new book is saying is that allegedly, you can tell I used to be in TV news, right? I always start every fact allegedly, which makes you say what she did was go back to New York and renegotiate her prenuptial agreement with the president, because everything in life is negotiable. And in fact, neither one of them were really confident that they were going to win. And so when he won, she used that as an opportunity to renegotiate her prenuptial agreement. And part of what the book is saying is not to get herself a better deal, but to make certain that their son Barron was taken care of in his will, or if they would divorce, in the same manner that Ivanka, his earlier wife, had assured with the children that they had together. So in other words, that their son would be on equal footing with his other children. That's what she renegotiated. And so it got me thinking about negotiation. Now, and Glenn brings up a great point. This is the point I was just about to make, Glenn. Principles and values, that's not something that we negotiate, right? I mean, you don't negotiate, Tammy and I may negotiate which night is date night. We don't negotiate who the date is with. Right? I mean, that is something that is not negotiable. So the principles are non-negotiable. Whatever, and again, I'm not trying to tell you what your principles should be, but I think it's pretty important that you have them. I mean, we talk about it in that course. By the way, Curtis, wow, I'm blown away. Thank you. Finished the course yesterday. I really appreciate that. I hope you found that of value. So we talk about the importance of your core principles, your basic values. What is it? Okay, so those shouldn't be negotiable, right? Tammy and I don't negotiate who the date is with. We negotiate when the date's going to be, because it's obviously, you don't date around, right? So that's one of our founding principles. So all of life is a negotiation. How do we improve our businesses? How do we improve? And I'm going to give you a one that really, really stuck out for me as a resource to help you. It's called Never Split the Difference, not distance. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I've never met Chris. There's nothing in this for me to recommend his book, but it's the best that I've read on negotiation. He was a hostage negotiator for the FBI. And he takes some of the principles from that and applies them to day-to-day negotiations that we could have. Part of the reason he says that we should never split the difference, and this is like if you're negotiating to buy a car or to buy a house or whatever. So let's say there's a house for sale and it's, pick a number, $200,000. And you go in and offer $150,000. And the person says, well, okay, I really want to sell the house. Could we split the difference? Meaning 175. Now, what the point that Chris Voss is making is, at that point, he's just told you that he'll take 175. So if he take 175, would he take 170? Because splitting the difference, they've already told you what they would take for it. It's worth the effort to see, could you do better than that? but to immediately, and one of the things he said is, you don't be the one to offer to split the difference. So for example, 150, 200, the seller says, would you split the difference? That's at 175. What if you started talking about other things? Well, I could do that if you also add $10,000 to help me with moving expenses. Or I could do that if, right? So now you're saying, they've already said 175. Now you're getting to additional concessions. Or maybe you extend the conversation and you offer 160. Now, at that point, if the conversation goes on, they could say, well, okay, you're saying 160, I'm saying 175, because see, now their price is 175. Okay, we could split the difference. Now they split the difference a second time. And that often happens in negotiations where they will split the difference not once, but twice. So you don't want to be the one to offer to split the difference. And part of what it says is that you can get a good deal by asking. So, hey, Charles has got a couple other great books on negotiation. Getting to Yes, great book. Getting Past No. I've not read Getting Past No. I've read Getting to Yes, and it truly is a terrific, terrific book in terms of, the language and the conversation of how we do that. I also want to recommend anything on audio or any book by my friend Roger Dawson. Roger was one of the first people to come out with books on just the science and the art of negotiation. Excuse me. So, we see this in everything from how we communicate with our kids to like what's going on right now in Major League Baseball, for goodness sakes. The negotiation about how the players will be treated in the NBA if they start the season back up. All of that is part of this. So that's what we need to be communicating with. So in terms of understanding that, we need the grounding power of a few constants available to us. Principles and core values are that for me. Yes, absolutely, Glenn. And that's the basis of it. For example, in a negotiation, I don't want the other side to lose. Roger Dawson talked about this a lot in his work, is that, there's typical negotiation has been win-lose. I've got to make sure you lose in the negotiation to feel like I win. But in fact, most negotiations in real life are based on we both have to feel good about it. There are very few deals where if you don't walk away feeling okay, you probably didn't get everything that you wanted. But if you get most of what you wanted or some of what you wanted, you got to make sure that the other party feels okay. When we trade our principles for a perceived increase in popularity, if we sell out, our self-esteem goes out the window. Once that's gone, trouble ensues. Yeah, that's true. Now, as we're talking about how do we negotiate for a better business deal in terms of what we charge for our price or product, if we talk about that, I don't think we're getting into the area of principles when it comes to that. But good grief, we've seen that a lot, haven't we? People that will sell out their principles for a perceived increase in popularity. Yeah, so true. Hey, Richard, great to see you here. Right. Never negotiate on Sunday. It's always great to see you, Richard. You're the best. Thank you for being here. And Ernest is checking in from Lubbock, Texas. That's always great to see. Jerry, man, Tammy isn't home for a while, and so I'm batching it for a few more days, and so I've been kind of camped out in the kitchen. I need to move to another room, quite frankly, but just kind of want to get away from the studio here for a little bit. So that's good. And Charles, yeah, the triple win, when everybody wins, is really important. Jerry, here's a great one: the Karas Institute of Negotiating, 2-day training a few years ago, and yeah, by the way, if you're not familiar with the Karas Institute, think of the old airline magazines, because everyone had an insert from the Karas Institute of Negotiating, and they taught some really, really great things about negotiating. So there's a lot of way. One of the things that I found, I was involved for a while in a business, and we did acquisitions where we would buy other companies. And one of the most fascinating aspects of that I found was that in any negotiation, it was seldom just about money. For example, there were some businesses that our group acquired, and we weren't the highest bidder, but we were the one that would let their family's name continue to stay on the business. and that was worth something to them. We had a person who always talked about the Uncle Charlie effect, that every family business had Uncle Charlie somewhere, and Uncle Charlie got paid a salary, but he wasn't very productive. And so finding a way to buy out Uncle Charlie so that he wouldn't complain about the family selling the business was always a good part of that, right? So what we find is that while money is important, it's seldom just about money in many negotiations. So what that means is we need to seek out the ways we can help the other side win in ways that are acceptable with our goals and our principles. So what are ways that we can help the other side win while we still get where we want to be? Keeping the family's name on the business, even though that we're acquiring it from that family, so that their perceived legacy continues, was a very easy thing for us to do because the ego didn't get in the way. But it was good for the family because the business that they founded, even though they're no longer in it, they could point and say, look, that's ours. So that was all very, very important. But Jeff, yeah, you're right. Hey, I was in a studio last night, so I didn't get a chance to grab your calls, but never negotiate principles and quality. That's it. You got to keep those, all right? We're not going to negotiate the quality of what we do, and we're not going to negotiate our values, our ethics, our principles. Those are non-negotiated. And Jerry, what a great saying. I'd forgotten that, but you're right. The Charis Institute used to say you don't get what you deserve in life, you get what you negotiate. Yep, absolutely true. And so helping the other side find ways they can win is really, really critical. So my first wife, Sherry, was so good at this, and it's so funny because I'd always get so embarrassed. She would always ask, is that your best price? Didn't cost her a thing to ask. And I've started doing that, and I still do it to this day. I wonder how much money that I've saved simply because I say, is that your best price? Right before negotiation closes, whatever it is, it costs you nothing to ask. And if they say, yeah, that is our best price, cool, right? But if they say, well, some people have, now all of a sudden, you got a better price. A friend of mine posted, Deborah, I don't know if you're watching her now. She watches quite often, Deborah Gardner, and she was posting about, she was on the phone with the company, and she knew that they gave a 35% discount because a friend of hers had got it. And so she said, why are you charging this? I thought it was this. No, ma'am, it's that. Finally, the person on the other end of the phone said, well, for me to give it to you, you have to ask for it. In other words, they had the power all along to knock 35% off the price, but the customer has to ask for it before that customer service representative is authorized to give it. So in many situations, companies have even set it up that you don't get the discount unless you ask for it, because they know most of us just won't ask. So don't be afraid to ask for what you want in terms of a negotiation. Yeah, Deborah Gardner. Yeah, that's who I'm talking about, Randall. She's a terrific person on negotiation, and she's the one that posted about the customer service representative. I can't give it to you. You didn't ask for it. So it's really good. The secret negotiation, controlling your blood pressure. I think that's true too, Jerry. I think in many businesses, real estate, Charles is the total pro when it comes to that. But in many businesses, real estate, automotive, we see it so many times in everything in business. I think one of the challenges is that we get frustrated or we get pushed, and one of two things happen. Either we give up and sign too quickly, or we walk away. Now, that becomes a challenge as well in the negotiation. You never want to push somebody's blood pressure to the point that they're willing to walk away. Charles says we negotiate price and terms. You got to find out what's important to the other side. Yeah, absolutely. We've got to find out what's important to the other side. And if we don't know that, for example, keeping their name on the business or whatever it might be, if we don't know that, then and you know, a lot of times some of the things that they want the most are things that they won't ask for. They'll tell us if we ask, for example, keeping the family's name on the business or keeping Uncle Charlie employed, or those kinds of things are not things that people will normally bring out to the table. We got to have communication with them. We got to talk to them. Curtis, you're in logistics. I negotiate more with excellent service and communication. It seems the rate follows. Yeah, exactly. And Curtis, it goes. You were so right. It goes back to that important thing that people do business with people that they like and trust. And whether it's B2B with logistics or B2C directly to consumer, at the end of the day, a negotiation with somebody that we like and trust ends up okay. You know, every year, and he may watch the show, it's only 5:21 in Sydney on Monday morning, but Jason Bradshaw is my biggest client right now and one of my great, great friends. And we negotiate my contract with them. And basically, it's, here's what I need, and here's what our budget is, and we communicate about it. And we communicate, but we're friendly about it, and we reach something that's satisfactory to both. And there's been a couple of times where Jason said, "Look, here's where the budget is. Here's what we got, and I understand if you need to walk away." That's a good friend. That's a good friend. I've also said to him, here's how I have to reduce my services so I feel good about this. He's okay. So I think sometimes we are very reticent about negotiating with friends, but sometimes we need to stop and think, these are folks that have our best interests at heart, right? So it's not a bad deal to do it when we do it openly and honestly. Yeah, that Uncle Charlie loves being this Uncle Charlie, Charles. Yeah, I missed that at first. Yeah, exactly. You love being employed. You got to make sure that happens. So here's the key. Learn more about negotiation. I invite you to join me in the journey. Remember that we're not negotiating our principles or our values. Those things should be non-negotiable. Also understand that we shouldn't split the difference, and we can learn a lot more. Boy, here's my big name dropper moment here. But when Arnold Schwarzenegger booked me to speak at the Great American Workout, two of us were alone in his hotel room and having a conversation, and I had a chance to ask him the question, tell me something that nobody knows about your career. Tell me something that is just not out there. You have such a public persona. I'd be interested to know something that people don't know. And he kind of thought for a minute, laughed, and he said, most people don't know I was a millionaire before I started acting. What? Did you know that? I didn't know that. He had made a lot of money in his bodybuilding days off of selling supplements. Then he took that money and bought real estate in Southern California. Now we're talking about the 70s here. So, it was pretty hard to lose money when you're buying up California real estate at that particular time. But the other thing that he told me I thought was so interesting was, he lived in a property that was less than the properties that he owned and was renting, or that he was, flipping. He said it's kind of humbling to, live in that you own something that you're renting to somebody else. It's better than where you're personally living. But he was building his fortune. And the whole thing was, as he analyzed show business, what he discovered was that producers took advantage in negotiation of a performer's inability to say no. How many times have we seen somebody that's in a hit movie, and now all of a sudden they're the toast of the town, they're in People magazine, and they're going to everything, and they start living a lifestyle commensurate with that first hit. So maybe the second movie's good too, and now they're on top. And now they've got to fund this expanded lifestyle. So they take a role in something that doesn't advance their career because they can't say no because they need cash. Hey, that's not just show business. We see that in everything. And so Arnold wanted the ability to walk away. And that was part of what, isn't it funny that there is an attraction to people that don't need us? I don't know why it works, But you see that in personal relationships. You see that there is an attraction to somebody that has the moral authority and the personal ability to walk away. And that's what Arnold wanted. He wanted to establish the ability to walk away. You're exactly right, Charles. I'm sure you see that a million times in real estate negotiations. If you have the ability to walk away, it changes the desperation many times of the negotiation. Yeah, a healthy negotiation is an ego station. It's not about your ego. It's about finding out what works. Where's the point that works best for everybody? I didn't know that, Jerry. Malcolm Forbes doesn't live in a mansion. That is so interesting. So, I mean, it's there's a great book called The Millionaire Next Door that talks about that in terms of, most of the millionaires in the United States don't live flashy lives. They live next door and you don't even know how much money they got, right? So the point is, in a negotiation, if you have your standards, if you're willing to walk away, you can make good things happen. So as Jerry pointed out earlier, in life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. So don't be afraid to ask. Doesn't cost you anything to ask. It doesn't cost you anything to just make certain. And to remember that so much in life is negotiable. To help other people get what they want and to get what you want. It's not a dirty word to negotiate with somebody. So, hey, that does it for today for what we're talking about here today. Thank you for listening to Negotiation. Oh, I didn't know that, Jerry. He lives in the same house he bought many, many years ago. That's pretty wild. They wear JCPenney suits and drive Ford pickups. A lot of times, Charles, they do. That's part of what's in that book about the millionaire next door. You are exactly right. Hey, I'll remind you, tune in tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. It's going to be the Glenn and Scott Show without a guy named Ken. It'll be this evening. Can't wait. We're going to have a great time with my pal Glenn Morshower and me, and I can't wait. It's going to be a fun show tonight. Thank you. And Randall, got to get this in. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house in Omaha that he bought how many years ago? It's crazy. Yeah, isn't it great? It's amazing. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow, of course, with the regular weekly edition of Daily Distinction. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow on Daily Distinction.